Hi, you guys. Latricia Morris, the brand revivalist and owner of Ox and Iron. I am so stoked today to have the Kerri Fishencord here for an interview. Kerri, thank you so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be on this show.
You're welcome. I was looking forward to it, counting the days down to get here. So I'm happy. Thank you for offering to have me on for sure.
Yeah, I was really excited to get a chance to bring you on, especially seeing you are just like a mover and a shaker. I follow you on social. You're like so inspirational out there doing the health and
Oh,
wellness thing. And then just getting back from being on set as
mhm.
you were playing in a role here recently. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I like to do a variety of acting. I've done a touch of theater as a child, and then that usually translates into film and television and things. So I've done everything from documentaries to 360 immersive films to series that you're going to see on television coming out this year, hopefully in 2026. So I can't say a lot of that, but just recently I did a short film and that was really fun. So I got some speaking lines in that, and that's always really fun. So I feel like all projects are valid and I love to be on set. It's like it's a new world, right? For me, it's a escape to do something totally different from what I normally do.
That is so cool. I know, like, when I especially being younger in high school and stuff like that, I loved being in theater. I've always had a passion for the arts really in general, but especially in theatrics and acting and all of that. At what point did you decide to take the leap, actually, like, wholeheartedly believe in yourself and you say, "You know what? I'm just gonna go for it."
Actually was driving and I felt the Holy Spirit just say, we as a we, you and me are going into media. And I just kind of was like, that is so odd. I feel like sometimes God is cryptic. Like he drops these little clues and I'm like, that was strange. And then he gave me a vision and I could literally feel it. It was so intense. And I was like, and it showed me being lifted up and moved into position. And the Lord said, you for because of your obedience, and this is key for every believer, because of your obedience, you're being moved into position. And less than 30 days later, I had the media guy at Dr. Tony Evans' church, Oak Cliff Bible Fish, reach out to me and said, the Lord's been showing me to put you up on the big screen for media. We broadcast to like, I don't know, it was like 160 different countries worldwide. Is that something you'd like to do? And I said, yes, because that was what the Lord showed me, right? You're going to be lifted up and moved into position. And so I ended up starting with that. And then that people spoke into me. Oh my goodness, have you been doing that the whole time? And I said, no, never even had any experience. So someone just suggested I audition, and then that's how it all began. The snowball kept rolling.
That is so cool. Were there ever times that you paused and maybe like second guessed if you were heading in the right direction? Maybe I know a lot of people in that industry in particular, it's known for not being an easy one to get into, right? You run into a lot of challenges. There's typically a lot of like rejection and delay and things like that that happen just as an
Hmm.
industry norm.
Yes,
Have you experienced
absolutely.
any of
Yeah, for sure. I don't think so. I think I've had other people who know me kind of question more than I've ever questioned. And I think I've known to hear God's voice and when he's speaking to me and I'm quick to obey, thankfully. I haven't always been quick to obey. I'd love to say that I just was one of those obedient, but the Lord had to really work on my heart with that quick to obey and just do and trust that in faith. So for me, I've not questioned. Other people seem to often not understand how is she getting these opportunities? How are they rolling out? Well, that's part of your walk in your journey, right? Like if the Lord wants you there, he's going to provide the way. He's going to swing those doors open and you'll walk into them um and so I understand it. I don't think other people always understand, how did she get that favor or whatever, like I'm more qualified. So I get that kind of more judgment than I do judging myself or second guessing myself. I don't second guess God. He'll figure it out. He'll figure it out. Yeah.
and just seeing what happens like when his anointing is on something, how areas that for other people it's like, oh, it's so hard to get into this, it's so hard to get a shot, and I can't get interviews, I can't get auditions, whatever, and then you're like walking right through the door because God opened that door for you. I think it's cool to see you go forth and like so boldly and courageously do that. Now, when you're talking about media,
Oh.
especially, and I would say media coupled with
Mhm.
Christianity, there are often kind of areas where people run into challenges with the spirituality in, especially in secular environments. Is that something that you found to
Yes.
be a challenge in your journey?
I feel like it is such a privilege. I don't find it to be a challenge at all. And I'll tell you why. As a Christian, it's so vital that we walk in a posture that is welcoming and loving. Ahava is a sacrificial love. Christ's love for us is a sacrificial love. We can tend to want to only be around people who believe what we believe, but I will say for sure, the one thing I've noticed is God has used me most on set. Most. So even when I've got offers to do like extra work, I'm like, oh, awesome. I wonder who I'm going to meet today. And people will say, oh my gosh, you changed my life with what you said. That's why I'm there. It's not necessarily to get my show stopping moment for me. It's about who I'm meeting along the way. So I guess maybe that's where I have kind of like, I'm just an honor and privilege to kind of go into a new space and wonder, oh, I wonder why the Lord brought me here. That's always the forefront of my mind. It's not necessarily about, oh, I hope I do good for them. I'm more thinking about how can I honor God in this moment? Because I know He keeps showing me ways that He's working on that. Even just incredible stories that I think have changed my life forever for me personally. Yeah. About how God is using me in that space. So, yeah, I feel like it's a privilege.
That's an incredible mindset to have because it is very easy to get distracted by the calling. And I would say, especially in areas where God is elevating you, right? Like people have certain feelings about being in positions of authority, leadership, being highlighted, having the spotlight on them in some way, and maintaining that sense of grounding in your faith and saying, okay, God, what is it that you set me here for? Like here recently, I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Tanisha Lawrence, who does a lot more on like life purpose coaching in addition to being a doctor and stuff like that. And one of the things we were talking about is how easy it
Nice.
is for people to mistake their calling as their identity, right? And it's like your calling stems off of it, but it's not your actual identity. Like if you're a doctor, you're an actress, you're whatever, that that's not who you are. It really just gives a context to the conversations and where God is placing you to interact with very specific people. So it's so cool to hear that you're taking advantage of those opportunities in a way of saying, God, how is it that you want to use me in this space? Who you want to speak to through what you're doing in here.
Yeah, because you're exposed to so many different walks of life. Also, I think it's important to note that I often don't just only take Christian film. A lot of times I'm not taking Christian film pieces, and a lot of people will kind of judge that. Like, as a Christian, you should only do that. And I feel very differently about that, actually. In one of the music videos, I've done three music videos, and the first one, she clearly tells me, just so you know, I don't believe in original sin and I don't believe in that. Are you okay? And I said, well, I really knew the Lord wanted me to do it. And I said, can I ask the question? She said, sure. I said, do I get to play a Christian? And she said, yes. I said, then I'm in. And my mother was like, I can't believe that, like she couldn't understand. And I said, Mom, sometimes people are not Christians because of their experience with other Christians. I'm playing a Christian. Being mocked is part of being a Christian, whether we like that side of Christianity or not. And that's what was happening, I guess. And so I was okay with playing that. And just honoring that. I understand that's part of being a Christian. It's not always cozy all the time. So sometimes people would be like, why would she do it? That's the reason why I did that one. So I definitely think about things before I just say yes, but I don't say no either if I feel like it's the right thing to do.
That is so good. And when you're talking about like being able to go and do, secular films just as well as doing Christian work, like that one of the things that I love about marketplace ministry is the ability to reach people in very unique ways, to have incredible conversations with people that you might not otherwise meet, you might not otherwise have any connection with whatsoever. And here God creates a time and a place for that to happen, for those two roads to cross over each other and intersect, you know? And so that's where I know a lot of people that they say, I only want to work with Christian businesses or people who are Christian. And then there are some people that separate it entirely. I love that middle ground that you found there of it's not a one or the other. I can still very much and should very much be a Christian, a woman of faith in whatever area God has called me to.
Mhm.
I don't shift from those values for anybody, but at the same time, I don't use it as a reason to like exempt myself from certain conversations with certain people just because they disagree in faith. Because sometimes it's that those interactions where they
Mhm.
come into contact with
Absolutely.
Christians, wow, the light that you bring.
Yeah, a lot of times people feel so judged, and that closes a door so hard. um, some people just need to be loved in a different way to make them curious about why was that person responding to me with grace or mercy, or not judging me for the first time ever, but just reminding me who I am. I often think about that. Christ often reminds people of who they are. And I even hear, and I have a passion for this, of Christians who speak things of personally, I feel like it's the enemy over other people, oh, they'll always be a loser. Like, well, that's not what Christ said that they were. Like, and here you are as a believer doing that, right? Or, oh, he's just a baby daddy. It's like, wow, like that's not Christ-like at all. So I think we have to remember that our words have power. And so when we encounter someone that doesn't believe the way that we do, you have to remember that they've been spoken all those words, and so as a believer our job is to step in and say, wow, you are beautifully, right, created, and you're such a light, and I can see all these amazing things in you, and just reminding them of the beauty of who they were created to be. That doesn't mean that's where they're sitting in front of you, but that's our job as a believer, I believe.
1000% agree on that. Like the ability to speak life into people and then see them come alive as they hear those words. There are a lot of people we encounter that, like you said, they have no desire to be in the church or around the church. They think Christians are hypocrites and all this other stuff, that they can be nasty and judgmental. And it's like, what happens to that person when instead of being any of those things, we just come as love and light in their lives, where we're coming in and we're like, you know what, you are really remarkable in how you do this or how you say that or whatever, like calling out their giftings. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of calling out the giftings in other people and them actually like realizing it or starting to believe in it themselves. Like, wow, somebody actually believes that I can be, that I can do, that any of those things. And it's like how powerful the testimony is it when we can come and be that in the marketplace. And that's where like I've heard many a times over the years where, there's been an idea that like if you're serious about God, then you should set aside all the stuff in the secular world and go serve in the church. And it's like, that's not
That's the
biblical. Like
lost.
we're called to go out. We're called to go out and integrate in with the culture, be and to not necessarily be influenced by the culture, but to be a driver and influencer of culture.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. In a beautiful way. And just I think a lot of people in social media, a lot of what love is self-love, self-adorning. And we should honor and take care of ourselves so we can have the overflow into others. That's our responsibility, right? My cup runneth over means that we're loving people in that manner, but it's not an exchange. Meaning, if you're not kind to me, that doesn't give me license to go, well, you're this and that and da 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 da. No, like God loves that person just as much as he loves me. But it's funny how people do that. Like, I'm just taking care of myself. you know, it's all about me. And if you don't bring me perfect peace, well, three snaps, they're gone, right? It's really, if you really start reading media, and that's not at all how Christ's love is. It's completely sacrificial.
Mm.
It's it's a sacrificial love. It's not a transaction. And I think the enemy is very much in the airwaves of media, which is why he wants people who are authentic, Holy Spirit filled believers in that space. Yeah, to combat those thoughts and things in media.
Mhm. Well,
Mhm.
and I've been taking note of what has felt like a wave of Christians coming into positions of influence in several key areas. You have in with film, radio, music industry and stuff like that, podcasting, as well as politics and other, other high level positions. And I think it's really cool to see that where Christians are being able to step in and set a different, we'll say a different pace, right? As far as what it actually means to be a Christian. Like, no, we're not actually judgmental. Like, the tenets of our faith are to be loving, sacrificially loving, and just go out and be light around the people around us. So, in
That's
addition to
okay.
doing film, you're also a business owner
Mhm.
and have been for some time now. What
Yes.
other work do you do outside of acting?
So I am a female entreprenista. I have owned and operated a brick and mortar practice for 22 years. I do several different forms of bodywork therapy. So I started off doing massage and I kind of finished doing like structural integration and a lot of like my structural integration, mastomusculoskeletal, somatic dysfunctions, which is trauma based therapy, medical massage, like the list goes on and on, a lot of fascia work. Those are based on integrative body work, which is structural integration. Sometimes you can think of it as postural reconstruction, but it's on a much deeper level. So we know and study the systems of movement within the human body, the fascial movement systems. We're specialists in that. And the best way to, I guess, describe myself would say I'm an integrative practitioner. So I'm taking the medical massage practitioner and the integrative person and kind of blending them. It's hard because in our industry, you'll say I'm a massage therapist, but then people will say you are not a massage therapist, and I'm not. So if we go by hours in our industry, and massage therapist would have this block of hours and then I have like literally triple that because I started earlier, of course, and I'm just naturally a learner. So I loved to study and loved to dig and all of that. So that's where I have triple that education. So it's hard when people say, like, well, that wasn't a massage. Like, what are you doing or whatever? But I've just decided to create my own master method. I don't believe one form of therapy is more valid than another. And so that's what I did. I developed my own master's methodology, which is a blended approach, and I can do it either as a session or as a 10 series.
Very cool. So, what was it that actually led you to start that business? What got you into it to begin with?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom raising my kids, and that was the agreement. At the time, I was married, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, now I don't know, right? I've been home raising my kids." And he said, "Well, you can go do anything." And I just said, "Send me to a spa." It really started so random. Send me to a spa for the day, and he did, and I got everything done in a spa. And I just, for some reason, I thought I can do a massage. And that was, came back and I said, yeah, let me just do that. And I'll do that until I figure out what I want to be. That's what I decided to do. And he said, okay. He goes, well, find the school you want to go to and tell me the check. And I told him the check and I just went to school. And that was really how it started. I didn't know, it wasn't like this deep thought. It was kind of this until I figure out what I want to be. Um, so it's funny to be like, you're still here. It's like 22 years full time. I haven't taken years of breaks, which sometimes you'll see in our industry. I haven't. I have just dead strong and even grown more into it. So, the Lord will use you where He places you. That was a decision I made a long time ago. I love it every day. I love serving and honoring people. Um, and God has just developed me as much as He's developed other people who are clients. um, a lot of people who come to me who they just don't know what's wrong. And they'll say, well, just go see Kerri. Just go see Kerri. Here's her number. Here's her website. Book and link. And then they'll be like, I don't know how you did that. And I'll be like, it's because it's a blended approach. I just have all these different tools that I can use. So that's where I think it's helped me. That growth mindset helped me early on.
So it sounds like you had a pretty strong support system at home, which that in itself can be huge. I think when it comes to getting a business off the ground, like I know for myself, I couldn't imagine where you have some that are like single moms and still doing it. Like mad props to them. I'm like just being married and having that support with the kids and everything else. It's like that. It can be still challenging enough.
Yeah. Well, I had the support going through school, but once I graduated, I did become a single mom. So that was where I think that's part of my testimony is that I just wanted to give them the best life. And so I always say if I hadn't been in that position, and I'm always grateful that he started me on that path. But then when I found myself in the single parent, I was like, I have to succeed for them. And they were my drive, they were my why. So I worked and studied my clients and just did whatever I could to get ahead, because I knew I didn't hadn't chosen that college degree. I had some college, but not my final degree, and I didn't feel like at the time I could go back and get it. I needed to be a provider for them. So a lot of my drive and ambition came from that real struggle journey. So to me, that's very much where my a lot of my passions lie for other people is like just be okay with yourself, looking at yourself, take it one step at a time. You're gonna have doubts, and I just yeah, a lot of my media talks about that season of my life or from that season of my life or what I learned through going through a challenging time. But yeah, you get there if you just lean on the Lord and you just keep being vulnerable with yourself and reflecting yourself. That's part of it.
So coming into your business, you told me earlier that you've been an entreprenista for 22 years, which is incredibly impressive. It's certainly giving you mad applause on that. But getting that off the ground, I know one of the things that I see over and over
Oh,
again working with different business owners is that there's one thing with having the skill or the thing that you're actually offering to the world. And then there's another thing of actually doing it as a business, setting up a business, running it, learning all the ropes, marketing, learning how to do all the many things. What were some
mhm.
challenges that you had to overcome as you were working to get that business off the ground?
A lot of challenges because a lot of things when I started out 22 years ago, you have to remember a lot of the things that we see now in the industry didn't even exist. I was 2 or 3 years into my career when the very first massage company, I think it was Massage Envy, was opening up, and there was panic, right? And then when the Lord called me out of that, and I thought, what am I going to do? I'd been working at this multi-million dollar resort spa. So I didn't have any business experience. Let me just be clear on that. None. None. I just knew that's what the Lord asked me to do, and I just did it. So I had to really learn. I had to figure out and problem solve. There's a book called Raving Fans, and what the book is about is just being that subtle increase in yourself along the way. And that is, I believe, one of the major keys to success of my business. They knew I didn't know a lot, they knew I didn't have any business skill, but they watched me grow and they became my raving fans. And when I finally got my brick and mortar building, it was a big building. I had all these studios and the whole thing. I had this one client, I'll never forget it. She walked in and she was just clapping and celebrating me. And she's like, look at you. Look at you. She was just so proud. But really, I think they were a part of that whole journey for me. So I didn't do it perfectly, and I learned a lot through that, through everything in life, right? Like that's a good message to share is that you don't have to do things perfectly. You will have raving fans if you are honest, you are truthful, you are transparent, you don't act like you have it together all the time. Um, you will get raving fans, and yeah, there will be cheerleaders around you if you let them.
Well, and how much is that like so counterintuitive to what so many people run with in culture where they feel like they have to have it so perfect. And I'm one like I totally believe in and agree with like showing up your best, right? We show up, we try we give our best to anything that we're doing. So we try to show up polished and whatnot, but at the same time, like none of us are perfect anyway. And I think we're really in a generation that is wanting to see more humanity in people at all different levels and not this show or facade like, hey, I've got it all together, I've got it nailed, I'm I've arrived some way, when it's like no, you're really kind of like in carrying that false representation of where you're at. I'm not saying that you haven't arrived yet, but like a lot of times early on, people struggle with that. They want people to see them as this, but then they're actually amplifying the pressures that everybody feels about performance. When it's like, there's a lot of power in how well it helps to forge relationships when you're able to be that kind of real and say, you know what, I'm still learning this. That's where I've seen a lot more people that say, document the journey, because people love getting to be part of that with you and see you grow.
We are seeing that a lot more in media, social media as well. I feel like that is definitely a huge trend that we're seeing. Some of the major influencers right now are people who are they're just raw, you know, and they're just a little unperfect. And people are gravitating towards them for that in particular reason. I think there's still a skill and an art to editing on that side. I don't think, I don't think that that comes as effortlessly as it looks. I'll just say that because editing is challenging and the attention span of people is minimal because of media and all of that and how everything is so quick, right? So people need the streaming word to run around my face and swoop out in order to keep paying attention sometimes. And yeah, so I think even with them as raw as it looks, there are definite tactics going into that editing process, even though it may not look like it to the audience. So, but yes, but people are more gravitated towards that.
One of the things that I feel like you do so well with is your personal brand and understanding how you can be fully authentic with people while also having a very clear and strong personal brand. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like there are a lot of people that have a hard time really understanding, like, well, if I'm supposed to just be me, I'm just going to be all me. And they start to put so much stuff out there that might be all these little side notes that ends up confusing an audience, where the audience doesn't really know what one thing
Mhm.
to remember them for. Where here, you're over here doing it like a boss, where you have this amazing personal brand where you do show up authentically,
Oh, I don't know about
but
that.
professionally. I'm just saying perception, from this side of it. I'm saying I think you do that very
Perception. Well, I'm
well.
glad because oh well, thank you. I feel like it's been a struggle for me. I feel like I've gotten much better over it over time. Um, because I became very kind of almost anti-algorithm, right? Like there's not one side of me, right? Like we kind of talked about in the podcast today. It's like there are other sides of me. And but then I thought, what is the common thread? The common thread is I'm a female entrepreneur. I carry multiple streams of income. I love the Lord. I serve him no matter where I'm at. And I'm encouraging you to be the best version of you. That is my social media wheel. So it might look like different ways of going about that, but there's that common center chain of that message. So maybe thankfully that's what you pick up. So yay.
I'm like right there with you. Entrepreneur, different interests and stuff like that. Like there was a time when, and this is especially like back in the day when I did like real estate and other stuff like that. I came up, from a more formal professional background where you had to, there was this sense of you had to present a certain way. So there were so many things that was like, oh, we got to keep those separate, no crossover. But then at some point, I'm like, okay, we don't necessarily cross everything over. Like, I don't mix all the paint in a way that everything is just brown and yucky, right? But in a way that brings the colors together in a beautiful harmony and says that this is I'm a masterpiece in process, not just one color, not just, like one thing that's the only thing that I do. And I think stuff like that actually helps to infuse more personality and humanity into the brand, because it's like, okay, like you said, even with things that look like they're maybe not expressly connected, there is still a common thread. And that common thread is what connects us in this beautiful tapestry that God is creating.
Hmm. Yeah, and I want other people to know that they can do more. Um, Especially economy wise, it's been kind of up and down, right? This last couple of years for sure. And I feel like people who normally had a 9 to 5 structured corporate job are finding that they need another stream of income. So they're having to open up what entrepreneurs already always did. We always had multiple streams of income, right? We always had those safeguards in place. But now I'm seeing people who have these corporate jobs finding other streams of income. And so I love that because we are to be growing in different areas, right? It's a good growth journey. So I think I do always want to encourage people to be the best version of themselves and understand they don't have to pick and choose. They can have a hobby, and it doesn't mean it's going to come at sacrifice for something else. And that's an old mindset that needs to go away.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that I love too about I would say even the ease of entrepreneurship at this point, it's not like 30, 40 years ago where it would have been a lot more of a heavy lift to let the world know that you were doing a thing. Like now you can set up a business and be taking sales in a day. You know what I mean? Like you've already got the LLC filed. You just went and you set up a website, you got your Stripe account set up, and boom, open for business. And it's not saying you won't have other things to be done, but like it getting into entrepreneurship has a much lower barrier now. And I think with that, it's like that in
Now.
itself presents its own challenges, right? Especially from a branding and marketing perspective, and even a logistics perspective, as far as like how they're going to operate their business and whatnot. They still have things to work out. But I think it's cool to see the doors open up a little bit more for people to get back to exploring and it not be so tied to,
Mhm.
well, what if it works out? What if it doesn't work out? What if this happens, that happens? It's like, especially for those that you're talking about, like they're picking it up as an additional stream of income. You have room to explore with it. And, it really not be with a huge amount of risk, right? If it's not your
Mhm.
sole source of income, you can play with it. Set up your lemonade stand, have fun, you know?
Mhm. Right, right. And just be a part of that growth journey, right? Like it's a human growth journey. And we should all be on that all of the time. So I think that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit that now more people are seeing. So I do love that for people for sure.
Well, looking
Okay.
at being in business for over 20 years, there
Mhm.
is a lot of growth that happens in that time. I know
Yes.
entrepreneurship is a lot of people experience it, especially I know myself included there. It is not just a journey of growing a business. It's more about the internal growth and who you're becoming in that process, which for a lot of us there often
Mhm.
has to be a lot of personal growth that happens along the way. What are some things that you feel like you have learned in who you've had to become to be the successful business owner that you are today?
Yeah, 100%. You need to become very resilient. You have to become very optimized, and I do talk about that a lot. I think also in my social media, it's like optimization is not about perfectionism. Optimization is about bringing things in a cohesive flow. There's never going to be a perfect balance. There's never going to be a time where everything is in perfect order. Maybe for an hour, maybe for a one day, everything's going great. But there's going to be obstacles. And so you really need to learn to just be okay with making mistakes, showing yourself grace, being resilient, looking at your patterns, being authentic with yourself and saying, I keep making the same error. I'm still in the same place. Why am I choosing that for myself? You don't have to broadcast that to everybody else, but you should look at yourself and say, is there something I'm holding back here? I'm having a hard time raising my prices. I'm having a hard time doing that. Do I not feel like I'm valuable enough? And if I don't, what's in the way of that? Is there an insecurity or a belief that I have about myself? It was a lot of those questions that I asked myself um, that helped me choose the next best step. And that's really what I did to grow my business was, what is the I have this problem, booking. That was a big problem for a long time because automated booking services were brand new. I mean, I feel like I'm so old now talking about that, but it wasn't always available to us. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, people are going to book all the time," and I saw all these challenges. But if you really focus on, okay, these are challenges, realistic. However, it's also a challenge to have my phone be blown up at all hours of the night with people asking me questions. I have to get back to that person to book. It was a very deep issue. And once I just said, okay, I'm going to try. And that was the thing. I just tried something. Let's just try and see if I can do online booking. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe the weight that was off my shoulders. So you have to be willing to try things. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to say, you know what? That was a mistake. That's not working for us. Let's try something new and not worrying so much about it being perfect. So that's where you just have to give, yeah, that kind of grace to yourself, and also do things boldly. I mean, when I started the acting and stuff, it really threatened a lot of my clients. In essence, you're going to love something more than you love us. Like, we know how much you love us and we need you. And I was like, I promise it'll be okay. If God wants to utilize you in a way, he will navigate it. He will find the ways, and it's never taken away from my practice. And so now they're like, oh, it's fine. So other people sometimes have fears. Um, you have to just learn to listen to the Lord in that. Yeah. And kind of navigate through that as well. And it's okay if they have fears. Don't shame them for it, but just keep walking in it if you're pretty sure about it, and it'll work out and they'll come along. So those I think would be some definite tips I would have to say if you're looking to grow and develop in yourself, or how it's personally developed me anyways.
You saying that, I remember having a conversation with another entrepreneur who has multiple businesses. I think at the time that we were having that conversation, he had like 8 businesses, all operating, and he's working in each of them. And one of the things that he had said as far as being a game changer in his own journey was him getting to a place where he could try a thing and lose millions on it, and then it not weigh him down or stop him. And for a lot of people, there are a lot of people out there that like, they couldn't afford to lose millions, but it's the idea of being okay with not being right all the time, and being okay with
Hmm.
being on a growth journey and saying, I'm not going to nail everything. And the things that I don't get right, especially the things I repeatedly misstep on, then those can be good learning opportunities too. Because, like going back to the personal growth side of it, it's like, okay, I keep running into
Hmm.
this same issue here. And you might be saying, okay, God, why is it that I'm always late on this, or never quite get this right, or misstep here? And sometimes it is because there's something that's internal that's, kind of like
Hmm.
not really helping us in the matter, that he's like, "Oh," like you said, like the
Right.
self-worth stuff. Okay, well, like any
Yeah.
self-worth thing, like that surely started way before business, but it's cool to see how he'll use the
Hmm.
context of your business to help you realize things about yourself so he can grow you through that process.
100%. Yeah, that's well spoken. Very true. Very true.
Something else that I love that you hit on too in, talking about optimization and it not being about perfectionism and, resilience. The other part of it that you hit on was resilience. And I know when we had talked before, one of the things that we hit on was, you running into a lot of
Yeah.
people that are embracing this mindset that like, well, if it doesn't bring me joy, or it doesn't come with peace, or it doesn't come with ease, then out of my life. But it's like, how much does God grow you through the challenges that
Yes.
prove that test the resilience, that develop the resilience?
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like there's stuff in media that is very man minded and not Christ centered. The man's
Mm.
mind is about little God. It's about, I'm my own God and I'm in control. And actually, they'll be like, I'm so powerful. And I'm like, no, you're so fearful. To me, that's not power.
Oh,
You are
oh.
so fearful. You are so fearful that you can't even trust yourself and you can't trust God to bring you through it. I know you want to sound like
Mm.
you're so three snaps empowerment. I'm going to walk away from that. That doesn't serve me. You are fearful. You are fearful. And so when I say that, people are like, ooh, because you know it's an arrow. And somehow you know it's
Oh, yeah.
secretly a little bit true, right? It's not powerful. We have to learn to face stuff. We've got to learn into that. And that is what grows us. So if we can't have that mindset, it's okay. I try to show grace. I'll say my arrow and shoot the arrow. And then that's it. I don't need to prove that I'm right for them. That little seed will sit with them, hopefully, you know?
Right.
And I had someone say, like, why do I need other believers? Why do I need other things? I can just be around people who think just like me and do just like me. And I said, okay. And how is that gonna, help me understand, how is that gonna grow you? You know? And it's like they just stand there like, I don't know, but I'm gonna think about that after we leave, because it doesn't grow us. The things that grow us are the things that shake us, right? The fruit falls from the tree when it's shook a little. So we can't be afraid of those things. We just can't be fearful. We need to trust ourselves and our history and our exam and what God's shown us over time.
Yes. Girl just like, pew. Just kicked it out there. No, but I think that's so true though. Like it's not necessarily being condemning. It's not tearing people down, right? Yeah, and you look at it, even like just taking it and turning it into a question that can challenge somebody. Like how often did Jesus teach people more than what they could probably articulate just because he asked a question that it was like boom, the way it hit as they were drawn to the answer to that question was like life altering, right? And so yeah, but the
Hmm.
one of the things you were talking about, like that posture of like, oh, that three snaps, I'm so powerful, is I find
Yeah.
that fascinating how we can kind of accept that mindset. And you'll see it with people that
Yeah.
like keep walls up. And I say this as being one that has done it for a long time, that struggle with like keeping walls up and having to get to a place of realizing it's like, no, those walls are not up because I'm so strong. Those walls are up because for some reason I still feel weak in that area. And so it's like, okay, there's a fear there, or it might be for a fear that somebody's not going to be there for them. It might be a fear that really are all
Hmm.
alone, or you name it. Like it could be on down the list. But it's like, man, when we're not really walking in love and when we're running from everything that makes us uncomfortable, there are root issues there that we probably should be addressing. Kerri, you have dropped so much here that I think that people could just really just go back and sit with for such a long time. That if you were to say one word of advice to someone who is maybe another entrepreneurista early on her journey, she has that vision, but she's still feeling unsure, what would you tell her?
I would say just try. Just try. Just try. And you don't need cheerleaders to try. Just try. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. When I wanted to start um, my podcast, I felt led, but I was so unsure. And I thought, I'm just going to try. And someone donated all my equipment. I ended up buying my own stuff later for different reasons. But it was like, oh, if I just try, I was supported right away. And I was like, okay, then let's go that direction. It's just try. Just try. Yeah.
Beautiful. So for those that have seen your interview and they're like, this chick has got all the best vibes and I want to be following along her journey, where is it that they should look to find you?
Sure. I am on all of them, Facebook, um, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all three, so I'll send you those links and you can drop them in there for people if they want to see that. And I appreciate the follows and subscribes, and I hope they get some fruit from what I feel led to share with them. So I'll welcome any new followers. I would love to continue to connect with people.
Excellent. Well, Kerri, you have done a beautiful job at bringing much fruit to this conversation. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show. For the rest of you guys, make sure before you leave, you hit that subscribe button to catch more on building a brand and a life that you genuinely love. Make sure you check the captions below to grab those links to follow Kerri and connect with her. You don't want to miss out on so many of the amazing things that she continues to share. Kerri, thank you so much.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I'm so proud of you and your growth journey too. So well done.
All right, you guys take care.